I want to quickly touch on some trends. The most recent trend I've seen is the involvement of property developers. I get phone calls from property developers now who want to purpose-build farmers markets into their new property development. Watch this space. Supermarket mimicry. I don't know if there's anybody here from Coles and Woolies, but you have copied farmers markets and we love it. You've put a very market feel into your new store fit-outs because you too have tapped into a consumer need, which is to get closer to the source of their food and understand its provenance. I'm going to give you a quick run through of other takes on this. There are some what I call virtual farmers markets. These are people who have e-sites that are not really a farmers market at all, which is a bit troubling. The movement generally has an issue in terms of recruiting more growers and explaining to primary producers the benefits of selling in farmers markets. That's something that I'm constantly working on and aware of. And there is the issue of authenticity and accreditation, and that's obviously something that needs to be constantly reinforced, and it would be wonderful to be able to roll out the Victorian accreditation scheme nationally were there the support to do that, because it will underpin the sustainability of farmers markets for all time. Some e-farmers markets, you can look them up. It's not great shopping, I assure you, but they're there. Just away from horticulture for a minute, one of the sectors that's really embraced, I think, an alternative channel very successfully are many meat producers who are selling meat cryovac direct from their e-site to you, from our farm to your fridge. A couple that I know of personally, because I spend a bit of time in the Hilltops region. I live in Sydney, but there quite often. Moppity Meats near Young and Argyle Prestige Meats are in Harden. They are family meat producers, graziers, who are now selling direct to consumers through websites. You order up, they cryovac it, they put it in a box, and it arrives on your doorstep. And they're just two among many who are doing that. Vegetables, obviously, in the horticulture context, travel less easily, but farm direct vegetables are happening too. This is an example in WA, and this farm, they also sell in 3 farmers markets in Perth. So they're using the farmers market to promote what they also do, which is to give you a box delivery service run through the internet. Rita is a grower on the outskirts of Sydney, peri-urban farm, and she supplies a box scheme called Food Connect. So Food Connect is another way of people alternatively marketing their produce. She grows on her relatively small 2 hectares a huge variety of vegetables which are supplied to this, I guess it's a box scheme essentially, but it's run through a website as well. CSA Farms, some of you might know about that, community supported agriculture. Not very big in Australia, but quite big in America, where I did my original research into farmers markets through the Geoffrey Roberts Award that I won some years ago. There are also community farms series and the Sydney City Farms. The Sydney City Farmers recently had the thumbs up to go ahead as a project. I don't think they've got one lettuce planted yet, but it's coming, and it's in St Peters in central Sydney. Another way to market through regional food stores, totally local, a slice of orange. These are retail shops that only stock local regional produce, and that's another relatively recent change. I've listed a couple of others there: Margaret River Farm Shop, Merrick's General Store on the Mornington Peninsula. We are going to see more regional food stores. It is a given. Pick Your Own obviously has existed for a very long time, farm gate and shed sales, but these sort of from farm supply chain opportunities are actually growing, I think. There are more people engaging in this style. The farmers are finding routes to market by simply putting a sign out. Now, this isn't big scale. We're not talking big scale, but we're talking access to fresh seasonal food and fruit particularly. If you combine a lot of those together, you will get, in some instances, in some regions, food trails. And a couple that I've just highlighted here, I did some work in New Zealand, Hawke's Bay, but in Queensland, the Gascoyne Food Trail in northwest Western Australia is a collaboration, if you like, of farm gates. And if you have a sufficient concentration, you can actually do that. Another way to market for growers. Community gardens and school gardens. Now, I don't know if anybody read the Herald the other morning, but there was some disturbing research by the Australian Council of Educational Research which elicited that children actually don't know where yogurt comes from. They think yogurt comes from a plant, and they think, I can't remember what they thought cotton was, but they really, the data that came out of that research in terms of the lack of knowledge is quite disturbing. Community gardens, kitchen gardens, and the permaculture movement are obviously another avenue for a small amount of direct food production. And then, of course, there's your own backyard or your nature strip. I know somebody who's selling 800 pairs of chickens in suburban Sydney to backyarders who are now producing their own fresh eggs. Another alternative of food supply. Indira Naidu, who you'd recognise, has written a book on edible balconies. I don't think this is going to put Woolworths out of business, but it is happening. I'd like to finish with this quote. Much of the work in this area has been written, in fact, by Americans, but the movement of local food, which is essentially what I've been talking about, can help restore rural areas, enrich poor nations, return fresh and wholesome food to cities, and reconnect suburbanites with the land by reclaiming lawns, abandoned lots, I don't know about the golf courses, orchards and gardens. I hope I've given you a speedy idea of some of the alternative market channels. Thanks for the opportunity.